The moment someone thinks they can intimidate you, they change. Their tone gets sharper, their body gets bigger, their eyes stay on you longer. They lean in, they interrupt, they speak as if pressure itself is proof of power. And most people make the same mistake. They react too fast. They defend too much. They explain too hard. They try to prove they are not weak. But the need to prove yourself is exactly what the intimidator is hunting for. Because intimidation is not always about truth. It is about control. It is about forcing your nervous system into confusion before your mind has time to organize itself. It is pressure designed to make you surrender your frame. And the second you start reacting emotionally, talking too quickly, apologizing unnecessarily, or shrinking your presence, they feel it. They feel your center moving. They feel your balance breaking. And that is when intimidation starts working. But here's what most people never realize. Intimidation is often a bluff, a performance, a psychological push meant to trigger a collapse that was never supposed to happen. And once you understand the mechanics behind it, the illusion starts to break. Because the strongest person in the room is not always the loudest. It is often the one who cannot be rushed, the one who does not panic, the one who does not surrender internal control just because somebody else is trying to create external pressure. Today we are breaking down 7 Machiavellian psychological principles that help you stay calm, grounded, and impossible to overpower when someone tries to intimidate you. This is not about yelling louder. It is not about becoming cruel. And it is not about playing games. It is about understanding power at the psychological level. It is about learning how to stay composed while others try to destabilize you. Because once you stop feeding intimidation with fear, most of it dies in front of you. Before we begin, drop this affirmation in the comments. I do not fold under pressure. 1. Control your nervous system before you control the moment. Most people think intimidation is defeated with the right sentence, the perfect comeback, the perfect line, the perfect display of confidence. But intimidation does not attack your words first. It attacks your nervous system. That is where the battle begins. Before your mouth moves, before you answer, before you defend your position, your body has already started making a decision. Your breathing changes, your chest tightens, your jaw hardens, your thoughts speed up, your focus narrows, and when that happens, your intelligence becomes harder to access. You stop choosing your behavior. You start reacting from survival. That is exactly what intimidation is designed to create. A rushed mind, a pressured body, a smaller version of you. So the first principle is simple. Before you try to control the conversation, control your body. Because whoever controls your nervous system controls your options. The moment pressure hits, do not rush to speak. Do not match their speed. Do not let their urgency become your urgency. Instead, ground yourself physically. Plant your feet. Lower your shoulders. Release the tension in your face. Take one slow breath in through the nose. Then exhale more slowly than feels natural. That single exhale matters more than most people understand. Because it sends your body one powerful message. This moment is not bigger than me. That message changes everything. Your voice becomes steadier. Your face becomes calmer. Your eyes stop searching for escape. And the person trying to intimidate you starts losing one of their biggest advantages, your visible discomfort. Most intimidation attempts feed on physiological leakage, fidgeting, rushed blinking, nervous laughter, quick defending, voice cracks, over-explaining. These signals tell the other person the pressure is landing. They tell them your center is moving. But when they push and your body stays organized, something subtle happens. Their certainty weakens. Because intimidation works best when the other person looks affected. When they do not get that feedback, their confidence stops growing. This is why calm people feel powerful. Not because they never feel stress, but because they do not let stress turn into visible surrender. And that is the difference. Composure is not the absence of pressure. It is control inside pressure. There is a Machiavellian lesson hidden here. Power is rarely just about attacking. It is about reading weakness. People push where they feel movement. They keep pressing where they sense instability. So if you remove that instability from the surface, you force them into uncertainty. Now they have to guess. Now they have to test harder. Now they are no longer dominating with ease. And ease is what intimidation needs. This also means you should stop expecting yourself to feel no fear. That is unrealistic. The goal is not emotional perfection. The goal is emotional management. You may still feel the pulse rise. You may still feel tension in your stomach. But if your posture stays grounded, your breathing slows, and your delivery remains measured, you are already winning the real part of the encounter. Because you are no longer being run by the moment. You are regulating yourself inside it. And once self-regulation appears, intimidation loses its easiest target. Remember this. Most people lose the interaction. before the first sentence because they let the other person hijack their body. Do not do that. Stabilize first. Speak second, because when your body stops broadcasting fear, the entire balance of power changes. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My body stays calm under pressure. 2. Do not enter their emotional frame. Every intimidator is trying to pull you into a specific frame. Their frame, a mental and emotional space where they set the tempo, define the tone, and force you to react from inside their pressure. Once you step into that frame, everything changes. You start answering the way they want. You start defending points you did not need to defend. You start explaining yourself too much. You start thinking emotionally instead of strategically. And the person pushing you feels larger simply because you are now operating on their ground. This is why one of the biggest mistakes people make during intimidation is trying to win inside the other person's energy. They match the aggression. They match the speed. They match the emotional charge. They think equal intensity means equal strength. But it usually does the opposite. It makes them easier to read, easier to provoke, and easier to control. Machiavellian thinking teaches something colder and more effective. Do not fight inside someone else's frame. Change the frame. If they become loud, you become quieter. If they try to rush, you slow the pace. If they speak emotionally, you speak with structure. If they try to crowd the interaction with pressure, you create space. This breaks rhythm, and intimidation depends on rhythm. An intimidator wants emotional momentum. They want the moment to move in one direction, forward, toward your discomfort, toward your submission, toward your reaction. But when you stop participating in their emotional design, the pattern weakens. Suddenly they are performing anger into calm, urgency into slowness, aggression into neutrality. That contrast creates discomfort for them, because pressure without emotional payoff starts feeling awkward. This is why calm can feel so dominant. It does not just resist force. It exposes force. When one person is escalating and the other stays centered, the aggressor begins to look unstable, and that matters. Not only to observers, to the aggressor too. Because most people who intimidate rely heavily on certainty. They need to feel that their method is working. The moment they sense it is not working, they become less smooth, less controlled, more repetitive, more obvious. That is where their advantage starts to crack. This protects your mind from getting hooked by atmosphere, and intimidation is often more atmosphere than substance. A heavy voice, a cold stare, a forceful posture, a loaded phrase, all designed to make the moment feel psychologically larger than the reality behind it. But once you separate emotional charge from actual content, you begin to see the weakness inside the performance. That is when power returns to you, not because you crush them, but because you refuse to be reorganized by them. The deeper truth is this: whoever controls the frame controls the meaning of the moment. If they control the frame, you feel threatened. They look obvious. That is a massive shift. So the next time someone tries to intimidate you, ask yourself one quiet question. Am I responding to reality or am I reacting to their emotional theater? That question alone can save you from stepping into the trap. Because once you stay outside their frame, they no longer get to decide who you become inside the interaction. 3. Force specificity. Vague pressure dies in detail. Intimidation loves vagueness. That is one of its biggest secrets. The more vague the accusation, the bigger it feels. The more undefined the pressure, the more room your mind has to fill in the blanks with fear. This is why intimidators often say things like, "You always do this. You have no idea what you're doing. Everyone sees the problem. This is going to end badly for you." Statements like these sound powerful because they are broad. They create weight without providing structure, and the human mind is vulnerable to broad pressure. It starts imagining consequences, interpreting tone, filling silence, projecting danger. That is why one of the smartest ways to disarm intimidation is to force it into detail. Ask for precision. Ask for examples. Ask for definition. Ask for specifics. Because vague force feels big, specific force becomes measurable. And once something becomes measurable, it becomes less frightening. Instead of reacting emotionally, respond with calm inquiry. What specifically are you referring to? Which part exactly? What outcome are you concerned about? Can you be more precise? Give me one clear example. Notice what these questions do. They reverse the direction of pressure. Now the other person has to think. Now they have to organize. Now they have to support their own intensity with logic. And that is harder than most intimidators want it to be. Because pressure is fast. Explanation is slow. Intensity is easy. Precision is expensive. The moment they are forced to move from emotional force into structured clarity, one of two things happens. Either they reveal that there is some real substance there, or they expose how much of their dominance was built on exaggeration. Both outcomes help you. If there is real substance, now you can deal with reality instead of reacting to pressure. If there is no substance, now you can see the bluff. Either way, you move from fear to analysis. And analysis is where intimidation weakens. The key here is your tone. Do not ask questions like you are attacking. Do not sound sarcastic. Do not sound offended. Precision works best when it sounds calm, grounded, and almost clinical. Because then you are not escalating. You are examining. And examination changes status. The person who examines looks composed. The person who is forced to explain looks less dominant. This is especially powerful because many people who intimidate are relying on your assumption that they know more, see more, or understand more than you do. But once you start calmly investigating their claims, they often begin to lose coherence. Contradictions show up. Weak language appears. They repeat themselves. They fall back on emotion because logic is harder to sustain. That is the hidden power of specificity. It drains exaggeration. It shrinks emotional fog. It turns a giant shadow into something with edges. And edge things are easier to face. You should also understand that forcing specificity protects your dignity. When people intimidate, they are often trying to make you psychologically smaller, to place you in a lower status position, to make you scramble. But calm precision does the opposite. It signals that you are not here to panic. You are here to understand, and understanding is powerful, because it means the moment does not get to define you. You define the moment by asking it to become clear. Remember this principle. The more specific the conversation becomes, the less power intimidation has. Because real authority can survive clarity. Only bluffing needs fog. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I make pressure explain itself. 4. Slow the tempo and break. Their urgency intimidation often arrives with speed. Fast words, fast pressure, fast accusations, fast demands. The reason is simple. Urgency weakens judgment. When someone makes you feel like you must respond immediately, decide immediately, defend immediately, or submit immediately, your brain has less space to think. And without thought, reaction takes over. That is why rushed moments are so dangerous. Not because urgency always means danger, but because urgency often prevents clarity. And people who intimidate know this. They want compression. They want the moment tight. They want you off balance. So one of the strongest counters is to slow everything down. Slow your speech. Slow your movements. Slow your decisions. Slow your breathing. Slow your transitions. Because when you slow the tempo, you force the moment to become thinkable again. And the second a moment becomes thinkable, intimidation starts losing its edge. High-pressure people hate calm tempo. They hate pauses. They hate measured replies. They hate silence after a sharp remark. Because all of these things interrupt emotional momentum. And emotional momentum is carrying half of their power. This does not mean you become sluggish. It means you become deliberate. There is a difference. Deliberate people feel difficult to control. Because they do not move just because somebody else wants movement. They choose timing. That choice itself signals status. Think about how real authority behaves. It does not rush to answer every challenge. It does not spill words. It does not panic under demand. It takes its time, and time is power. Why? Because the person who can slow the moment proves they are not owned by it. That matters psychologically. If someone tries to pressure you and you immediately speed up, you are showing adaptation to their force. If they pressure you and you remain unhurried, you are showing independence from their force. That difference is huge. It tells them their energy is not governing your behavior, and that is deeply unsettling to someone trying to dominate. This is also why pauses matter so much. A brief silence before answering an aggressive comment does not make you look weak. It makes you look measured. It makes your answer feel chosen instead of triggered. And chosen speech has more weight than reactive speech. When you finally speak, keep sentences shorter, not because you have less to say, because short sentences are easier to control under pressure. They also sound more certain. Long explanations often sound like self-defense. Short, clear lines sound like authority. For example, I disagree. That is not accurate. We are not doing that. I need specifics. Simple, clean, steady, no rush, no decoration, no emotional overflow. This is how tempo becomes strategy. Your body should match your words. If your speech is slow but your hands are restless, the message gets weakened. So reduce unnecessary movement. Let your head turn slowly. Let your gestures stay minimal. Let your posture remain rooted. This creates a complete signal. Now the other person is no longer dealing with someone who is being pushed around emotionally. They are dealing with someone who remains internally organized. And organized people are harder to dominate. There is also a deeper effect. When you slow down externally, your body often starts calming internally. The nervous system takes cues from behavior. So by speaking slower, breathing slower and moving slower. You are not just sending a message to them, you are sending one to yourself. This moment is manageable. That message preserves judgment, and preserved judgment is one of the most powerful forms of self-protection. Remember, pressure wants speed. Authority chooses pace. The more you understand that, the less likely you are to be psychologically dragged by someone else's urgency. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My pace stays under my control. 5. Hold your space without escalating. Intimidation is not only verbal. A lot of it happens physically. Someone steps closer than necessary. They lean over you. They block your line of movement. They stand too tall, too near, too forcefully. They are trying to say something without saying it. Move, shrink, yield, and many people do. Not consciously, automatically. A half step back, a turned torso, a lowered head, a collapsed shoulder line. Small physical retreats that feel harmless in the moment, but communicate something powerful underneath. They communicate surrender of territory, and territory matters. Because physical space often becomes psychological space. When someone can move you physically, they begin feeling they can move you mentally too. That is why one of the strongest anti-intimidation principles is learning to hold your ground without becoming aggressive. Notice the phrase, without becoming aggressive, because many people think the only alternative to retreat is confrontation. It is not. You do not need to puff up. You do not need to stare them down theatrically. You do not need to turn the moment into a contest of ego. You simply need to remain present, feet planted, shoulders level, head upright, chest open, breathing steady, eye contact calm. That posture says everything necessary. It says, I am still here. And that is enough. If someone steps into your space, do not automatically give ground. Pause first. Let the moment register. Often that alone disrupts them, because they were expecting immediate retreat. They were expecting instinctive compliance. When they do not get it, self-awareness starts appearing. Now they are the one who feels slightly exposed. This is especially true when your face remains calm. No anger, no fear, no performative toughness, just centered presence. That combination is powerful because it makes escalation costly. If they want to push further, they now have to become more obvious. And obvious dominance is riskier than subtle dominance. So holding ground increases the psychological cost of their next move. You can also use structure intelligently. A table edge, a chair, a doorway line, the angle of your body. These things matter. They create natural boundaries without adding drama. And boundaries are often more powerful when they look practical rather than emotional. If you do need to address space directly, keep it simple. Take a step back. Give me space. Lower your voice. That is enough. Do not add a speech. Do not justify the boundary. Do not explain why basic respect matters. Boundary statements lose strength when buried under emotional explanation. Short boundary lines work because they carry no neediness. They sound like standards, not pleas, and standards are powerful. One more thing matters here. Your chin. Keep it level. Not lifted in arrogance, not lowered in submission, level. That communicates balance. Pair that with relaxed shoulders and still hands. Now the signal is complete. You are not collapsing. You are not escalating. You are simply refusing to be repositioned. That is psychological strength, not the loud version, the stable version. And stable power is harder to fight, because it gives the other person so little emotional material to work with. Remember this truth. Whoever holds their space often holds the frame, because space is not only physical territory, it is a visible expression of inner authority. And when your body stops surrendering ground, your mind becomes much harder to push. Your face should stay naturally neutral, not frozen, not dramatic, not overmanaged. The mistake many people make is trying so hard to look calm that they start looking artificial. Artificial calm looks tense. Natural calm looks real. So aim for relaxed stillness, a composed mouth, a steady gaze, a quiet brow. Nothing more. If you need to reply, keep it low temperature. I heard you. That is your opinion. Noted. I disagree. These short replies are useful because they do not feed the emotional loop. They neither collapse nor overengage. They register the moment without emotionally investing in it. That is powerful, because intimidation often relies on your need to prove something, to prove intelligence, to prove confidence, to prove innocence, to prove value. But the person who needs to prove themselves is already in a lower position than the person who simply remains centered. That is why detachment feels strong. It communicates inner sufficiency. It says, I am not reorganizing myself around your provocation, and that is deeply frustrating for manipulative people, because they want access to your emotions. They want access to your reactions. They want access to your self-doubt. When you deny that access, their reach shortens. Now be careful. Non-reactivity is not tolerance for abuse. It is not silence in the face of unacceptable behavior. If a line is crossed, state a boundary, but state it cleanly, without extra heat, without emotional leakage. For example, do not speak to me like that. We can continue when you are calmer. This conversation stops here. That is very different from yelling, very different from collapsing, very different from over-explaining. It is controlled disengagement from manipulation. That is the skill. Remember this. Attention is currency. Emotion is fuel. Reaction is payment. Do not pay where there is no value, because what you stop emotionally feeding starts losing its psychological hold over you. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I choose what gets my energy. 7. End the encounter on your terms. A lot of people think power is proven in the middle of confrontation. In the best line, the strongest stare, the sharpest response, but the ending matters just as much, maybe more, because the ending becomes the memory anchor. It becomes the final image people replay in their minds. And that includes you. If the encounter ends with you rattled, over-explaining, reacting, or lingering in emotional chaos, your nervous system remembers that. But if the encounter ends with steadiness, clean boundaries, and deliberate disengagement, your brain remembers something else. I was not trapped. I stayed intact.
That matters.
Because every composed ending trains future confidence, and every messy ending reinforces future fear. This is why strategic exit is one of the most powerful anti-intimidation skills you can learn. Intimidators often want to prolong the exchange. They want the last jab, the last word, the last emotional spike, because the longer the interaction continues, the greater the chance you eventually lose composure. So once your position is clear, stop circling. Do not keep trying to be understood by someone committed to pressure. Do not keep explaining a boundary to someone benefiting from crossing it. Do not keep negotiating after you have already chosen your stance. That only reopens the door, and reopened doors invite more pressure. A strong ending sounds simple. We are done here. I have made my decision. This conversation is over for now. We can revisit this later. Short, clean, final. No emotional decoration, no dramatic speech, no attempt to crush them with words. Because the strongest exits do not seek approval, they simply close the frame. Your body should match the close. Do not rush away. Do not storm off. Do not move like someone escaping. Transition smoothly. Straighten posture. Gather what you need without hurry. Turn naturally. Walk at a normal pace. This matters more than most people realize, because hurried exits often undo strong presence. They signal relief. They signal fear. They signal that pressure did land, even if your words sounded confident. So protect the exit window. Stay composed until the interaction is fully over. That includes after. Do not send reactive messages. Do not relive the argument immediately through angry texts or voice notes. Do not reopen the conflict because adrenaline is still active. Silence after a composed exit is part of the power. It allows your ending to stand. It also protects you from emotional aftershocks that could pull you back into their frame. Machiavellian strategy understands something important. The person who can disengage without agitation reveals freedom, and freedom is power. Why? Because intimidation is built on the idea that you are stuck in their pressure, stuck in their intensity, stuck in their control. But the calm exit proves the opposite. It proves that you still own movement. You still own timing. You still own conclusion. That does not just affect the other person. It affects your identity. Every time you leave a pressure-filled interaction with self-command, you teach your brain a new story. Not I survived, but I stayed in control. That is a different identity, a stronger one, a more dangerous one to anyone who relies on intimidation as a shortcut to power. Remember this final principle. You do not need to dominate the other person. You need to stay unowned by them. That is the real win, not ego victory, not louder force, not theatrical toughness, internal command. And once internal command is visible, intimidation starts dying before the conversation even ends. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I leave with my power intact. Most people think intimidation is about strength, but most of the time it is about pressure, about forcing movement, about making you abandon your center before anything real has been decided. Now you understand something most people never learn. You do not beat intimidation by becoming louder. You do not defeat pressure by panicking more elegantly. And you do not gain respect by surrendering your nervous system to somebody else's aggression. You beat intimidation by staying organized while someone else is trying to disorganize you, by controlling your body, by refusing their frame, by forcing specificity, by slowing the tempo, by holding your ground, by choosing non-reactivity, and by ending the encounter on your terms. That is real power, not dramatic power. Not fake alpha performance, real psychological power. The kind that makes people realize they cannot rush you, shake you, or emotionally drag you where they want you to go. Because the truth is simple, most intimidators are not prepared for someone who stays calm. They are prepared for fear. They are prepared for argument. They are prepared for visible discomfort. But calm disrupts all of that. Calm exposes the performance. Calm turns pressure back on itself. Calm makes aggression feel heavy in the hands of the person using it. So the next time someone tries to overpower you, do not ask yourself how to look stronger. Ask yourself how to stay centered. That is the real game. And the person who stays centered is usually the person who cannot be controlled. If this video sharpened your mindset, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment your affirmation, calm beats pressure. Because real dominance is not forcing the room to move around you. It is remaining unmoved when the room tries to force you.